You're right.
I worked public affairs for a while for a candidate campaign. And then I was the person who was kind of in that school line. Very honest, and asking a very hard question. You go over to the dark side and they're not very nice about it.
What's new with you?
And I never forgot it.
Nothing. They were just counting down days to my spring break.
Oh,
End of the
nice.
month.
Taking a little time?
Yeah.
Good.
We go off with the kids and they go to Florida.
Nice.
Yeah. So I just really miss my beach this time of year.
Yeah? Is that right? Where are you from?
Out east.
Okay, gotcha.
You know. So when you're used to having like an ocean, like an hour and a half away,
Sure.
like the lakes just never quite.
It's not
did it
quite
for
there?
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love the Gulf.
Oh,
Gulf's beautiful.
excellent. You're going to be on the Gulf side?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not doing Disney World?
Panhandle.
Gotcha. Okay.
No. Not until my youngest is
Sure.
old enough to actually do things there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's smart.
Like apparently like the second mortgage. That's right here.
Yeah. I went once as a kid. The magic was still there at that age. I was
I've only
like
been
9, I
to
think. Okay.
Because I had a relative that lived out in LA.
Okay.
Which I hear is also very fun.
I'm sure.
Nowadays. So yeah, no, Disney World probably in our future in the next
There you go.
several years, but
Nice.
not this trip.
Not this one. The kids will enjoy the beach.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good morning. How are we doing? I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, you too.
Insight as to what this was about.
Linda Fields.
Who?
Linda Fields. I think, you can't quote me on that, but I was going back through old Journal Times articles, and they did mention 2000 in the press release, right? She was killed that year, murders never solved.
Just we'll find out.
Yeah. I'm hot.
Great.
Okay.
You are.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sergeant Wilcox. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Racine Police Department. We're going to update you on the homicide of Linda Fields that occurred in February 24th, 2000. Joining me here today are Chief Maurice Robinson, Deputy Chief Jesse Matoyer, Investigator Chris Blackmore, Sergeant Sarah Zupke, Special Agent Neil McGrath of the Department of Criminal Investigations, Assistant Agent in Charge Robert Bosch of the FBI, District Attorney Tricia Hansen, and family of Linda Fields, her son Carl Fields, and her sister Kathy Fields. We're going to have a few speakers first, and then we'll open up for a few questions. Chief Robinson's going to start us off.
Good morning. This is one of those days that is somewhat of a mixed emotion kind of press statement, because what we have to talk about is something that the family would like to have gotten behind them, but this allows us to bring some finality to the reason that brings us here. So on February the 24th, at about 11:30 in the evening, a 37-year-old female was located deceased in the front yard of 1132 Lake Avenue underneath a low-hanging tree. The female was later identified as Linda Fields. The Milwaukee medical examiner's autopsy result reported that Ms. Fields was strangled. Multiple DNA samples had been collected, and the crime line reported by Sharon Polkowski indicated that all the samples of DNA that were collected came from a single unknown male contributor. So the DNA profile was entered into a casework file with the Wisconsin DNA data bank, and that data bank includes information on convicted felons and also the national data bank with no match at that time. So now retired investigator Steve Mitch was the lead investigator at the time. He interviewed a number of witnesses but was never able to make an arrest. The case was reassigned in 2005 and then again in 2012. The DNA of 5 suspects was compared with the unknown male DNA, and all 5 were eventually eliminated as suspects. So by March of 2005, an additional effort was gained to find some new leads, but previously unsubmitted samples were submitted for testing. Male DNA was identified and on one of the items that was submitted for testing, and a sample was found to have the same DNA profile as the other DNA that was found. So in August of 2020, Chief Howell instructed the investigations unit to take another look at the case. So in September 2020, investigator Chris Blackmore was assigned to review the case and continue the investigation into the death of Linda Fields. Investigator Blackmore was assisted by Special Agent Neil McGrath from the Department of Criminal Investigations. In April of 2021, Investigator Blackmore consulted with DCI Special Agent McGrath and Sarah Demeron and her DNA analyst Natalie Fisher, and there was enough DNA to move forward with an investigative genetic genealogy analysis. So the Wisconsin Crime Lab could also move forward with a familiar DNA analysis, which is key to this case. In May of 21, Agent Demeron informed Investigator Blackmore that the FBI had approved an assist case which would allow us funding for the extensive testing that was, and costly testing that would take place. So they submitted the information to the Crime Lab Milwaukee. It was submitted to a company for testing. In January of 22, Blackmore and McGrath met with the state crime lab, and they determined that a familiar DNA search would be appropriate in this case due to the DNA that was available in the case. A familiar search would identify potential close relatives to a person of interest that we had come up with. Through the help of Special Agent McGrath, it was determined that a male person of interest had a brother and a father that was still living. A plan was devised to develop and collect the DNA sample from the brother. With the help of FBI agent Mark Dring, DNA was collected from the brother and submitted to the crime lab. The brother was eliminated as a potential suspect. In December, the attention was directed toward the father. So with the help of Lieutenant Paul Hayes of the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, State Bureau of Investigation, and Agent McGrath, they determined the father was living at the time in Birmingham, Alabama. So another plan was developed to collect DNA from the father in Alabama. They learned he had moved to Zion, Illinois. A search warrant was eventually written to collect the father's DNA. So in February of 2023, a sample was obtained from the father, sent to the lab for comparison. In early March, and I apologize if I misspeak her name, but analyst Polakowski informed Blackmore that the sample from the father was a match from the DNA taken from Linda Fields. She stated that the odds of the DNA of a randomly selected person matching the DNA collected from Linda Fields are 1 in 1 quadrillion. The person of interest, Lucas Alonso, was detained at his place of employment here in Racine. He was brought in for questioning and eventually arrested on first-degree homicide charges. So there are a number of organizations and individuals that extended a Herculean effort for us to allow us to close this case, do an interview, and come to the place where we can charge. So I'd like to thank, first of all, retired Chief Howell for his work. We'd like to thank the family for their patience. We'd like to thank Investigator Blackmore, who delayed his retirement by 3 weeks to complete this case. So what you see is what we always talk about, that one agency does not always get all this work done. There are a number of us that all work throughout the entire criminal justice system, from the scientific part to the investigative part to the apprehension part, to make sure that we can bring as much justice as we can to cases that are open. As we've said before, if the family would like to make a statement, we'd be more than happy to hear it.
Thank you, Chief. All right, I'm going to take a few moments and read my statement here on my own behalf and behalf of my family. I wanted to say thank you to all who have put in the massive effort to get this done in order to bring this day about. My family and I are grateful to be able to have these beginning stages of this kind of closure happening now. We've been living with this in a fractured way for a long time. We've been hurting quietly and silently for a long time, and we are happy to have this day. Linda Fields was a person who's still a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a daughter, and a valued member of our family. Her spirit and her influence are very much part of our lives. And for me, it's the reason that I live my life the way that I do. She loved this city, and she wanted us to continue proudly in her absence. We're here because the person accused of bringing about this absence is being brought to bear. Justice isn't vengeance, but it is in big part accountability. And it's very much so about healing. We thank everybody for helping us to have our piece of justice healing today as we begin this pretrial process in a participatory way. Thank you.
We'll open it up to questions now.
Just first off, could we get a spelling of the arrest?
Lucas.
Alonso.
LucasAlonso.
Sergeant Wilcox is an investigator from the case here to speak today?
Yes, Investigator Blackmore is right here.
Okay. Hi, Bruce Harrison with TMJ4 News.
Hi.
You know, going back in time, you know, Carl Fields, the son of Linda Fields, is here today. He was questioned in his mother's murder back then. Can you tell us why that happened?
They were, they did not have any leads at the time. They were, you know, they were trying to find anything they could. So they were looking at all angles, any possibilities. So you know, I wasn't here for part of that investigation, but I know from my experience, you have to grasp at straws. You're looking at anything. So they want to question anybody.
Is there a motive that you've determined?
There was a brief casual sexual contact between the two, between Alonso and Linda Fields. So it's just a casual sexual encounter that led to a physical altercation that led to her death.
What made a case like this so difficult after all these years?
Really just not having any DNA match forever. There really was very little leads. But I just wanted to press forward with it because I just wanted to bring peace to the family, and that was important.
And I apologize if I missed, was Mr. Alonso arrested here in Racine?
Yes.
Okay.
What else would you like the public to know about solving a case like this 23 years later?
You know, it's like I said, I'm really glad I could help bring peace to the family. That was really the main goal. There's a lot of agencies that the chief thanked that are really instrumental in the case. And like he'd said, I pushed my retirement back to get this done because it was really important to me. And, you know, we've had, I was assigned this in 2020, 3 years ago. And we've had, you know, 3 years with our department. You know, we haven't had a raise for our officers, no contract, but still my brothers and sisters stepped up when he was in town and we had to get him and the case heated up. So I really want to go out and thank them for their efforts.
How critical is the advancements in DNA technology to working on cold cases like this?
It's come a lot. This familial DNA investigations have been around for around 10 years. But I think they've ramped up a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. Green Bay had one about 3 years ago, a similar case, and there's been others in the state, so they're becoming more common.
But they're expensive. I think the chief said they had to have a grant to get this done. Can you tell us how much that was for that kind of match?
Well, we won't go into the cost, but the thing that I want to leave you with is the things that make the difference are little pieces of information that people volunteer and the work ethic of investigators that are assigned cases to help us bring these to conclusion. So if there are no more questions, we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
I have a question. What does it mean for you
to have this case finally solved, and what's your message to other families who may still be waiting for justice?
Personally, one of the first people that I met early on was Carl Fields. And I think it was Juneteenth, and we got a chance to talk. So having met him and getting to know him, it's important that for his family that this happened. So that's where it's important to me. And that the city see that we have investigators that work hard and are dedicated at personal sacrifice to make sure that we get the right thing done the right way for the right reasons. Thank you.
Christy.
All right, so just, no, I have history. So there were several that were eliminated. And then when they did the IgG testing.
So of those several people that were eliminated?
The initial appearance is at 1:30 today at the law enforcement center downtown. I brought copies of the complaint.